Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us from the Simpkins Center Gold Room on a very exciting day for San Jose State University. My name is Lisa Malora, and I serve as the university's Vice President for Strategy and Chief of Staff. I also had the honor of chairing the search committee for the Director of Athletics. Media who are present today virtually should submit your questions along the name of your media outlet through the Q&A function. Before we open the floor to questions, President Mary Papazian will offer opening remarks and then introduce incoming Athletics Director Jeff Konya. At that time, President Jeff Konya will offer his remarks, and we will follow that up with questions and answers. Questions that have submitted will be directed to both President Papazian and incoming AD Konya. With that, I would like to welcome to the podium President Mary Papazian.
Well, good morning, and I want to thank everyone for being with us today. I'm thrilled formally to introduce Jeff Konya as San Jose State University's new Director of Athletics. Before I call upon Jeff to share his first remarks as a Spartan, I want to thank our CFO and Vice President for Administration and Finance, Charlie Foss, who has served as Interim Athletics Director over the past few weeks while we conducted a national search. I also want to thank our search committee, led by Lisa Malora, who you just met, faculty athletics representative and chair of kinesiology department, Tamar Samerjian, Super Bowl winning wide receiver, NFL Network analyst, and San Jose State alumnus James Jones, and Charlie Foss. The diversity and track record of success from many candidates in the search confirmed what many of us at San Jose State truly believe: that San Jose State athletics is a great place to be with a bright future ahead. We thank the candidates for their time and the consideration they gave to this position. And finally, I want to thank the more than 100 students, coaches, staff members, our athletics board, donors, cabinet, and other who participated in the search process. Your insight, your frankness, your transparency, and your feedback was tremendously valuable and appreciated. When we set out to find a new director of athletics, I had 3 attributes that served as my pillars: commitment to student success, integrity, and innovation. With these 3 pillars in mind, and Jeff Konya's rich history of building a culture of inclusion and successful programs, he became the right choice to be the 15th Director of Athletics for SJSU. In the last 4 years, Jeff twice has been named Under Armour NACDA Athletics Director of the Year, an outstanding accomplishment. This makes him one of just 4 athletic directors in the history of the award to earn AD of the Year twice in a 4-year span. Under Jeff's leadership, Northeastern Athletics worked with the student athletes to form the first ever Black Athlete Caucus. The NUBAC was established to represent the voice of and bring exposure to the Black athletic community on campus. This is one of the examples of Jeff's dedication to promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion in athletics. At each of his stops as AD, Jeff consistently has put students first. He places value in learning what makes students thrive inside and outside of the classroom, and finds creative ways to provide immersive, high-impact experiences that help students become better academically, athletically, and personally. Jeff leads with clear principles, ethics, morality, and compliance, and has clear expectations on how he expects the athletics department to embody these principles. And finally, the landscape of collegiate athletics is undergoing tremendous change. A few examples are the pending federal NIL, or name, image, and likeness legislation, and potential CFP, that's college football playoff expansion. Jeff's passion for jumping the curve and his innovative mindset positions him to lead SJSU athletics into the future. And now I ask you to join with me in welcoming our new Director of Athletics, Jeff Konya, to the podium. Jeff?
Let's go. It's a great day to be a Spartan. And I emphasize the word great. That's what we in the business call foreshadowing, so stay tuned. I want to thank Dr. Papazian, the search committee, Dr. Lisa Malora, and Turnkey ZRG for giving me this opportunity. And this may be one man's opinion, and I may be biased, but they made the right call. I was preparing my remarks for today, and I scoured the internet and I found an interview, a press conference that Coach Tim Miles recently did. And you're a hard act to follow, Coach. I'm gonna do my best, but something that struck me in your comments was that Spartans run to the fight. Spartans run to the fight. So I'm a Spartan now, and I'm running to San Jose, but I'm not gonna fight. I'm gonna collaborate, right? It's almost the same thing. I'm gonna collaborate with the constituents. And the first constituents that we need to talk about are the student athletes themselves. And what tremendous student athletes there are here at San Jose State. 7 straight semesters of a 3.0 as students on the athletic side. 5 teams were playing in the NCAA postseason in just last year. That's a tremendous framework from which to build. And we will build. And how we're gonna do that is we're gonna have authentic conversations with our student athletes. We're gonna talk with the leadership, the Student Athlete Advisory Committee. We're gonna gain their perspective. Maybe in technology we'll find a solution where we can even communicate with them better and more efficiently. And I'll tell you, we are going to talk about racial and social justice issues. We're going to have a commitment to gender equity. We're going to embrace the LGBTQ+ community. These are things I look forward to working with the students on. And it's not going to be lip service. It's not going to be Facebook likes either. We're going to take action. And we need to find a way for the student athletes to have a voice on these matters and a whole bunch of others. And we'll work on that too. And then the next constituency group, that's a tough word to say, that I want to talk about are our head coaches, our coaches, do the lion's share of our interactions with our student athletes. And we have 16 head coaches for our 22 intercollegiate sports. And philosophically, I want to let them know that I treat them as the CEO of their program. But all CEOs, even Fortune 500 companies, report to a board, and if they're public, key stakeholders like shareholders. But on the other side, and I think this is important, is that the athletics administration needs to provide the infrastructure for success and work with the coaches to do so. One recent example is all the facility improvements down on South Campus. That is an infrastructure improvement, and that kudos to the athletic administrations prior that made that happen. And we have to continue those same kind of projects, because any investment in an athletic facility is an investment in the coaches, and it's an investment in the coaches being able to provide the best student athlete experience both in the classroom and in the fields of competition. The next constituency group I'm going to talk is to One Spartan Nation, the 300,000 alumni, including several prominent athletic alumni. I want to talk to our fans. I want to talk to our boosters. I want to talk to our faculty and staff here at San Jose State University. And last but not least, our wonderful student body here in Spartans, here with the Spartans. And here's my promise to you all. We are going to run a very transparent and open athletic administration. And it's going to be principled in ethics and morality, and we're going to have a compass for compliance issues. There's no doubt about that. The other things that we're going to do are quite fun. We are going to become innovators in everything we do. We are not going to be afraid to be trendsetters in the college athletic space. How are we going to do that? We're going to become masterful storytellers. We have so much rich history, from Speed City in 1968, the Olympics, all the way to more recent times when women's soccer won the Mountain West a couple years ago. And there's a really neat video, I don't know if you all saw this, with Coach Brennan's football team after winning the Mountain West Championship. Music to my ears was Lean on Me coming out of that locker room. These kind of stories, this curated realism, we are going to become content masters in disseminating that information. And speaking of disseminating information, we have to have aggressive, progressive, and forceful messaging to the marketplace. There are three ways in which the average fan can consume Spartan content, Spartan athletics. And that's in broadcasting, linear and digital. That's coming to our games, fun games, an embrace the game environment. And then obviously the third way is on the social channels. We have to have a consistent messaging in all of these spaces so we can amplify the message and truly make a difference with the Spartan brand. Last but not least, we are going to be relationship oriented. And one of the first things you're going to do in Spartan Nation, one Spartan Nation, is I'm going to invite you to come be part of a big, massive think tank. We're going to call on everybody to come and help us with this. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a think tank that's going to identify the strengths of the organization and the opportunities. And then it'll be up to the athletic administrative team working with me to chart the strategic action steps to take advantage of what was identified. And why are we doing this? Well, I think this is a very good job. It has become a very good job. I think the recent investments in facilities, the recent successes, the university leadership, we are poised. But the enemy of very good is great. And what I want is greatness. I want to go from good to great. When you're good, you have a tendency to relax. You have a tendency to become complacent. And sometimes the results wane. But not when we have sustained greatness. That's what we have to achieve. So I am calling on all of the constituents that I just identified, student athletes, the coaches, the staff, One Spartan Nation, to join me. And I will stand with you and by you as a true Spartan. And together, collectively, we will run to greatness. Thank you.
Now we will move into a moderated Q&A format. My name is Kenneth Masenchi, Senior Director of Strategic Communications and Media Relations. I invite the media members joining us today via Zoom to submit questions using the Q&A function. And along with your question, please provide your name, media outlet, and who your question is directed to. I will read the question aloud. And before we share questions from the media, we have received several questions from the SJSU campus community. I will share a few of those questions first, and all of them are for Jeff Konya. First question, what are your goals for the first 100 days as Director of Athletics?
That's a great question. So the first 100 days, each and every day I'm going to meet with one constituent. I need to gain the perspective of people that are passionate about San Jose State University athletics. As I mentioned, we're going to have a massive think tank and we're going to identify the strengths and opportunities for the department. And my team and I are going to develop strategic thinking around each of those objectives. I have a few, thoughts of my own walking in, doing my research, and I think that there's an opportunity for us to have additional original content. I think people want curated realism. We have such wonderful stories to tell of our student athletes in our department and broader university. I do think that we can be aggressive in a marketing platform. I think heading into the fall sports seasons after COVID, we have the opportunity to become a gathering place. And I think there's such appetite right now. Humans are social creatures, and we can provide those outlets for the community to come out and cheer on the Spartans to victory. I do think that I'm inspired working with the student athletes on issues involving DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think that's going to be something that we'll tackle in the first 100 days for sure. And then we're going to start game planning a couple of things that I think can really help. I mentioned gathering in COVID. I think there's an opportunity for us to take advantage and offer some special events to the community under the athletics umbrella and do some fundraising and fundraising around that. And I think we're going to start game planning. We have to celebrate all of our success in a very formal way, all of our students' athlete success. We're going to start planning for that because ultimately I believe that your culture is going to be defined by what you choose to recognize.
Next question, what is your experience with Title IX?
So my experience with Title IX is that I went to law school and I took a class in higher education in how that the nexus was with the legal issues. And ever since that point, I've been very well versed with Title IX. I, in fact, taught two classes at two different universities on sports law. And ever since that time, I've, in the role as athletic director, kept up with all of the legislation and subtle changes in broader Title IX legislation. And being an athletic director, I've had issues come before me across my desk that allowed me to work with our Title IX office on campus, HR as appropriate, our student affairs office as appropriate, the police as appropriate, and we work through those matters. So I have some practical experience going through complex issues as well.
And a final question from the campus community. What do you know about the ongoing litigation and investigations involving the athletics department, and what will be your approach in handling them?
Well, I first want to start that going through this process, I was very pleased that the university was so open in providing resources for me to do due diligence on that subject matter. And I believe that all of the legislation will run its own course. It has a natural evolution to each of those matters that myself as a new person don't have any direct experience with. That said, I believe in building culture, and I want to have authentic relationships with those that are in the athletic department, and together we are going to focus on implementing that culture that I talked about previously, about being open and transparent, relationship-oriented, and take advantage of the opportunity that we have to influence student athletes, to provide them the best opportunities for them to become the best versions of themselves in the classroom, in athletics, and as they develop into future leaders in society.
And now we will proceed with questions that have been submitted by the media. From Adam Rittenberg from ESPN, his question: how does San Jose State keep pace financially the next few years with name, image, likeness, increasing costs, and a location where things are typically more expensive?
That's a really complex question. What I will say to that is things are expensive, but I believe there's incredible wealth opportunity as well in this region. I think that we can really focus on what I call the 5 ways of fundraising. To me, there's 5 principal ways, and I'll name them for you real quickly. One is through corporate sponsorship. One is with personal connections being wanting to support a student athlete or a staff member or coach. I think you have a third category of joiners, right? They want to be part of like a booster club, and they want the tickets and access and parking and all those things. And then you have your legacies, right? Those are individuals that are inspired about leaving a transformative impression on the university vis-a-vis an athletics contribution. And then what I mentioned earlier about special events, friend and fundraising events, your golf tournaments, and so on and so forth. I think we can maximize each and every one of these buckets from a revenue generation standpoint. What you talk about NLI in the question, I think is going to be transformative for college athletics. And we will be vigilant to stay on top of the current trends. And right now, it's kind of the big unknown because there's states that have different interpretations on how they're going to bring NLI forward. There's talk about federal legislation. The NCAA is certainly looking at the issue. But what we have to do is kind of synthesize all of that information and provide an opportunity for our student athletes to take advantage.
And we have a question from Brianna Bartlett from the Spartan Daily. How do you intend to incorporate the fight for social justice and sport activists within the department?
Yeah, well, what I mentioned before, I wanted to talk directly with the students, want to see what's important to them in those spaces. I have my own perspective as well. What I certainly want to do is open up social platforms, open up their ability to express themselves in whatever way they would like to on those very significant issues. I certainly want to open my office and have direct conversations with any student athlete that would like to have conversations on those subject matter. And I think we'll move forward with some plans. I'm about action and not words. And so what does that action look like? I'd like to talk with the student athletes to see what they would like to have as representative of the athletic department. But make no mistake, I'm committed to action in those things. I was on the inaugural college hockey Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. I was the only Division I athletic director on that committee. And it was very, very important that we had tangible change of how we were going to affect those issues from the youth level all the way up through the college ranks.
We have a question from Troy Wolverton from the Silicon Valley Business Journal. Have you met with Marie Tuitt? And given that she's still on campus and an employee, what kind of relationship do you expect to have with her going forward?
Yes, I do not know Marie personally. I've been involved in intercollegiate athletics a long time. I know of her name. I have not had a conversation through this process with her, but I look forward to having a conversation with her. I think it's important for me to gain some perspective on important topics that she has firsthand knowledge about to ease in my transition. And those topics include issues around the Mountain West Conference, what current issues are there, as well as the facility projects that are ongoing down at the south part of campus.
Now we will move to questions for President Papazian. President Papazian, this question comes from the SJSU campus community. What have you told Jeff about the current matters in the athletics department and how best to handle it?
Well, thank you for that question. And it's always my commitment to be as open and transparent with individuals coming into key leadership roles or any role at the university, and this is no exception. So certainly shared with him all that's on the FYI Transparency website so that he had a full knowledge of it, and answered whatever questions I could for him that we were able to answer so that he could focus on really thinking about moving this department forward. And really our focus right now is on moving it forward, recognizing, of course, that we enter a stream midstream.
And we have time for one more question. This is from Ron Kroichik from San Francisco Chronicle. Jeff Konya obviously has extensive experience as an athletics director, but he hasn't been an AD at a school with a Division I football program. How much of a concern is that, and how do you expect him to compensate?
Well, you know, that's Jeff Konya has been an AD at a number of institutions that have had significant success, so we're very optimistic about that. I would just remind everyone that he was a college football player at Princeton, so he did compete there, but also was a senior athletic director, associate athletic director at SMU, University of Memphis, and so has been around significant D1 programs.
Completes the Q&A portion. And now, President Papazian, I believe you have something to share with Jeff Konya.
I do, and Jeff, please. I want to welcome you to Spartan Nation.
Thank you.
And there you go.
This isn't going to fit me, but
It stretches. This is yours.
all right.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today at this press conference. This concludes our program.